There we go. Right. Yeah, so this JLF, standard SandWire JLF with the PCB version, the 5 pins, square gate, ball top. You just know all that stuff. That's what everybody gets on their first premium fight stick. We'll be taking it apart. It's very old, so I say it's got a bit of rust on it. It's we're not too worried about rust, but it just shows that it's old. You can tell it's one of the earlier ones. It's also got some red Loctite there under the screws. And we'll be fitting it with a new shaft, a link. This is what you get with a link if you've never bought a link. Freak Mods original links, the OGs. And for Bumbo especially, because we're wondering what's Tam talking about. This is a special, if you're going to be traveling with your fight stick, you want something like this. I'll stick a ball top on the top of this very quickly. So this is a joystick shaft that replaces this one. You can see it's a little bit wider, but that's because it's got this collar on it. And what this collar does is you pull this collar up, that lets a ball bearing fall inside of it, and then you can take that shaft off. And now, the only thing that's protruding out of your joystick is this tiny little nub. So if you're traveling and you've got this in your backpack, this just goes in your pocket, and then yeah, your fight stick's not gonna. You don't have to worry about that getting damaged while you're traveling. Other thing with that, actually, got one. So if you really want, you can even put that on a lanyard, carry it around as a key ring. So that's what we'll be building. But yeah, that's what you get anyway. Is you get the shaft, you get an Allen key for actually tightening the ball top. Little hole there. You can see the 3 ball bearings that hold it in place as well. If I pull on that, don't know if you'll see. Yeah, you can see the 3 ball bearings. We pull that, they fall away, and that's what makes it come off of that. So you get that. You get your Allen key for tightening the ball top, because obviously you haven't got the whole thing there, because that can rotate on there if you over tighten it. You get some little instructions with it as well. Nice letter from Clayton. There we go. Just explaining to you what you need to do. We'll not be using that, obviously. We've got pictures, all sorts of stuff. He did bring out a new version called the Link 2, I think, something like that, 2.0. It's a little bit slimmer than this one, because some people don't like that this is a bit too chunky, but I personally don't mind it. And we need to get that on here, and we also need to tidy this up. So I'll do a full field strip of this thing for anyone who needs one. There's a really good, I retweeted it this week, there's a really good thread from someone showing you how to field strip one of these as well. Important knowledge if you're going to look after your own fight sticks. I get DMs all the time from people who've pulled these apart and can't remember how to put them back together again. First things first, you've got your restrictor gate on the back here. This is a square gate. Some people have an octo gate. It will have obviously 8 bumps instead of 4. Easy way to get this off is it's got these little tabs on the side. See them there? So we've taken them apart. So we push them in, and then the whole gate will come up. You can do them 2 at a time and take it off asymmetrically as well. So that's your gate off. Heathens, yeah, the octo people. I was one for a little while when I first moved to Grappler. Someone recommended it. So yeah, you can see a square gate gives you pretty much even distribution from everything from the center to the corners. Makes it easier to hit corners for that reason, but also makes it a little bit slower to find the corners. And if you're trying to find true bottom, true north, true east, true west, a little bit more difficult. So having those additional divots, it gives you extra areas to rest in. But yeah, it also changes a few other things as well. People, as you can see here actually on one of these drawings, people prefer, if they're doing the dragon punch motion, the Z motion, and it's a lot easier to find that final corner on a square gate. So again, people who play Ryu and stuff like that prefer a square gate. Octo, like I said, as a grappler, I was recommended it for easier churning of butter. But I personally didn't like it. I was dropping things, especially my up forwards and things like that. Having only a 6% bias in the tops isn't ideal, you know. Other thing with the square gate is they are not better. Like, they're not designed to be better. So as much as I've said all of that, the truth is that a square gate was designed for versatility first. So this, as it fits at the moment, is a square gate that is like that. It's very easy to turn this into a diamond gate for playing other games as well. So it was actually just because it was a really generic arcade gate. that was useful for a bunch of different things, basically. That middle bit does actually come out, and you can rotate it. So that's the main reason why these became the standard. Now they're the standard because everyone's got them. And again, that means if you learn Square Gate, you can play in any arcade, you can borrow somebody else's stick and things like that. Whereas everyone's got custom shit, it's a little different. Right, we're getting the Leatherman out again. You know what that means? It means that we're going to do some stuff that we're not supposed to do. Anyway, so we've got the Leatherman. We're going to use that in a second. The next thing to come off is the micro switches. So if everyone wants to see how a joystick actually works, we've now got the micro switches exposed. So you see the little red things there. They are the micro switches. When you turn this joystick left, right, up, down, and you hear that click noise, you are pushing a tiny little button. And when you're pressing down, back in the diagonals and things like that, you're actually pushing two of them at the same time, and that again just comes off. That is a full PCB, very basic wiring, and like I said, just individual micro switches on there. But yeah, these are Omron switches. You can replace these with different types of switches. Obviously, if you choose the non-PCB version of the JLF, it's a lot easier to do that. That's all replaceable, depending on the quality of it. When you're taking these off, give them all a good click, see if any of them are sticking. They manage hundreds of thousands of clicks, these, before they wear out. Very, very, especially the Omron ones, very, very high quality micro switches. So that comes off, put that next to the gate there. Right, now we're left with just the housing and the joystick bit itself. So now we need to do something that again is a little bit scary. What we're going to do is we're going to put with thumb nail on this bit. You'll see that this is what's called the actuator at the bottom here. Can I make that there? This part here. This is the bit that pushes against the switches, and it's got a big spring underneath it. So we're going to hold that here, and that takes the tension off of the E-clip on the end here. I'm going to put a little flat screwdriver into the E-clip, turn it. Hopefully, there we are. That's pushed the E-clip off. I'm just going to get my pliers just to grab that safely so nothing pings anywhere, because again that can go flying. So we're going to get a good grip of the E-clip like that, and then pull that off. That's that away. Called an E-clip because it's kind of the shape of an E. Put that with the other parts over there. Now the reason I was holding this is there's a big spring under it, so we're going to let go of that now. Got the spring underneath. That's the actuator. You can buy oversized actuators. Obviously a wider one of these will be more likely to be touching the micro switches, so again that means that dead zone, that middle 11%, becomes less and less and less the larger the actuator you've got. So some people like to have an oversized actuator. It makes it more responsive, but also makes it a lot harder to find neutral. Next we've got the spring. The spring comes off quite easily. And then next you've got the top hat, which has you can see that the fatter end is at the bottom, and then there's a thinner kind of lip on the top bit. That's important to remember. Put that there. There we go. So gate, switches, E-clip, actuator, spring, top hat. And now that we've taken the top hat off, the whole shaft will actually come out. We want to grab these two plastic washers here so they don't go flying anywhere. Okay, so when we take this one out in particular, it's going to actually hold on to what's called the cup quite often, which is this little white bit. Stock spring, stock tension of, oh, what is it? Is it 0.8 pounds or 1 pound? It's about that for a stock spring. You can get anything up to like 4 pounds of spring tension on these things. Quite often, if you find that you're getting funny inputs, replacing this is one of the first good pots to call. Spring's main job, obviously, make sure it jumps back to neutral. Anyway, final bits. Shaft cover, we're not going to need that anymore because it doesn't work with the thing that we're working on. Now we've got the two washers as well. Make sure you've always got two, always count two. Again though, we might only use one of these. I'll just explain why a bit later. We'll put them there. Give this all a clean. You see the damage where it's just been running up against the metal plate of somebody's joystick. Like I said, I believe this was inherited from F-Words, which is why it's got that kind of signature pinky purpley. We call it a mauve on there. I'm going to also clean inside what was holding the cup there. A lot of dirt builds up in there. We're then going to clean the cup. And all we're doing is getting the old grease off it. Grease does a couple of different things. It's not just there to lubricate, it also catches dirt and holds onto it to stop it from getting into other things. So an old JLF is going to have a lot of grease in it. And actually, as I was taking it off, you could feel it on pretty much every single component there. But yeah, if you wanted to change the spring, the actuator, any of that, you wouldn't have to go as far as I have now. But through watching what you've just seen, you'd be able to do any of this, really. One thing you might also notice on the actuator, they tend to wear, you can see there's a little grey ring right at the bottom there. And again, that's where it's been bouncing off the micro switches. So that can start to wear, especially with really aggressive use. It's not really a problem unless it starts to chip. This one actually has. Ooh, that's interesting actually. Not really. See if I can get it focus. There you go, look, massive chunk. There is a bite taken out of that. So I'll replace this actuator another time. So I've definitely got at least an oversize downstairs somewhere. There was Air Kunai, man, he's been going hard, yeah. So that's clean. So spring feels a little bit oily itself. So give that a quick scrub. E-clip's fine. This bit, very, very important, is cleaning around the micro switches. What we're going to actually do is get my screwdriver, put a couple of layers of the cloth over it, and just get either side of it like that. You see what I'm doing? Just rubbing it up against the edges there. Again, just to get any dirt that's caught up in the grease that's in the switches off it. Normally use a cocktail stick for that. And again, inside here, the grease builds up also inside the square gate. So it's worth giving that a quick scrub as well. That's all good. Now, before we put it back together, I was saying before, people were talking about Shin-Etsu grease. I'm personally a fan of Dow Corning DC4. Cheaper, pretty much same chemically, which means I can use it more liberally. Comes in a bigger tube. Loads of good stuff. But as we put everything back into this, we're going to be greasing everything basically. So I've got that ready. We take the shaft there. We've got the Allen key for that shaft. Do you want to pick a ball top? So we've got a shiny black ball top there. We've got the purple ball top off the existing one. Bumbo shouting baby blue though. So let's go for that. Nice juxtaposition on the stick there. So take that off. If you want to fit this, if you fit in your own link, you take that shaft part off for the time being. You stick your Allen key right up in there. Give it a quick turn, nothing too aggressive, just enough that you feel the tension back on it. That's that ball top on and secure now. That's that back together. We can do this a couple of different ways. We can put the cup on there, or we can put the cup in the cup holder. I'm going to use the cup holder myself, because that means that we can take that DC4 that we had earlier, just run that on the inside of there, all around it. And then when we drop that in, it serves that purpose of both being greased at once. There we are, nice and slippy. That's good. That can now go through. Before we do that, you can put both, or put one, have at least one dust washer on here. These on. It doesn't matter about having two when you've got a link installed. If you've got a normal shaft installed, you would still use two though. Worth mentioning. So we'll put two on for now, just to simulate real life. There you go, that sits over the top of there. When you do get a link as well, it's worth mentioning that these are machined to pretty much the exact hole size of these washers. So what some people do is it's worth taking like a little, let me put a bit more grease on there. It's worth taking like a little Dremel or something and just cutting away the top washer a little bit just to make it fit slightly nicer. Yeah, I'm going to put a bit more DC4 on there. Sometimes called MS4 as well if you're looking for codes, which is the mil spec number. Yeah, so we'll give that a bit of grease on both of the faying surfaces, the surfaces that are actually sitting next to each other. Drop them in. With that in, next piece that we want, get that out of the way, is the top hat piece. Top hat piece, don't necessarily need to grease it, but we're gonna. If you're gonna, The best bit to grease this on is actually this little, the slim edge. So if I hold that up to the camera again, you can see there's like the short edge and the long edge. If you put a bit of grease on the short edge, again it's a fan surface, so it sits up against the moving part. If in doubt, putting stuff on the bits that move tends to be the right idea. And again, you'll know if it's got enough grease on because it'll actually stick to whatever you're putting it on. So that sits on there like that. Next up, if you remember, is the spring. Spring sits on the long piece of the top hat like that. Actuator goes over the top of that with the cup facing into the spring. That's what holds the spring in place. You want to hold all of that down. And then take our E-clip, push that on a little bit by hand. Put that at a bad angle, my hands are covered in grease. This could end in tragedy. I'm going to grab the pliers. Just use one end on the end of the shaft. Again, holding the actuator down so there's no spring tension on it. And then the other end on the E-clip. Just give it a little squeeze like that. Now that's sitting over the top of there. And that's holding everything in place. That's now all back together. Next up, put the PCB back on. PCB was facing down again because of the positioning of all of the little plastic lumps in there. It can only really fit in the right way up. So that goes on. And then lastly, and again it's got like an, I don't know if you can get that on camera. That square there is slightly smaller than that square there. You see there's a bit of a chamfer. So you want the bigger square at the top basically. Again, it's quite idiot proof because it's got these plastic tabs on it. So it should only fit on one way. Like so. And it just pushes till it clicks. There we are. That's your JLF all back together again. Give it a quick spin. Hear everything click. That's all good. So you can manufacture two other parts for yourself. One is you take a blank. These are made by Sanwa, cost about £3 a pop. Way too much. And break the tabs off the back of it. You see there, the tabs are missing. Normally you would push that in, that would plug a hole of a button that you weren't using on a broken arcade machine, or if you've got an 8 button and you just want to have a 6 button, you've got a couple of these. I've broken the tabs off of that, and then I've bent it a little bit like this so that it kind of faces out a bit like that. The other thing I've got here is a metal washer. Because like I was saying, these plastic washers, if they're exactly stock size and you get yourself a link, they will actually rub up against it and it's not ideal. So that'll actually jam sometimes in a fight stick and it'll be left leaning a little bit. So normally I would take a Dremel and cut that away, but if you're going to get a Dremel or something, you might as well buy yourself a nice metal washer like this. And again, I've just carved away the edge there. You can see there's a little bit of a chamfer on that as well. Sanded it off top and bottom so that there's no burrs or anything like that. And now if we take that off and replace just the top washer, that one goes underneath the fight stick, this one goes on top of the fight stick. Together they stop any dust getting through. Now there you go, we've got the pink on pink and it's just a little bit nicer, not going to jam at all, much slicker, metal on metal as well, so frictionless compared to the plastic. And that's a JLF refurbished, re-greased, link installed. This plug here though, like I was saying, is when you take this off, so you'll take that off, attach it to your lanyard, that's now your key ring. Washer goes with you as well. Personally, what I do with the washer, if I want to keep the washer and not lose it, yeah, put that through like that, put that through like that, and then pull on that. There we go, and now you've got a nice little washer on one end, that on the other end. Now you don't lose anything. But what I was saying was, yeah, once you've taken that off, if you've got one of these Sanwa blanks, I think Canva make them as well actually, now you can push that over the hole and keep everything just looking flush and tidy and no dust gets in there while you haven't got the dust washer on it. But aye, that's kind of everything, man. I was hoping to work on another pad tonight, but one